people, it's me, Anja. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to a new video. Today's video is a part 4 of my favorite Sapphic books, Sapphic main characters. For those who don't know, Sapphic is an umbrella term meaning woman-loving woman. So the majority of these books have female-female relationships, but a few of them have male-female relationships because queer people in straight-passing relationships are still queer. So with that said, the first book on this list is called P.S. I Miss You. This book is middle-grade contemporary and follows a young girl who's questioning her sexuality as she writes letters to her older sister who was sent away from their strict Catholic home after becoming pregnant. This story is so good. I feel like queer religious books are underrated. Maybe it's just me, but I feel like the majority of queer books that I read are secular, so it was really nice and refreshing to have a religious element in this story. Maybe I'm biased because I'm religious myself. However, I'm not Catholic, so I can only speak on the religious representation in the story to an extent. But anyway, this story is so good. I really enjoyed the format of this story. I know I've talked about this book pretty recently. I talked about it in my favorite queer middle grade books as well as my favorite epistolary books, you know what I mean? So anyway, this book is so good. It definitely doesn't deserve the lack of hype that it has received. This story is so underrated because it's absolutely so good. I really enjoyed the Sapphic representation, the religious representation, the plot, the storyline, the setting. Every single element of the story is so good. And with that, I highly recommend it. So before I get into the second book, I'd like to acknowledge the fact that I'm aware that it's very windy today, so I'm sorry if you can hear that in the background, and typically I would apologize for that, but I feel like I shouldn't apologize for things that I can't control. So yeah, just know that I'm very aware of that. But anyway, the second book on this list is called Star-Crossed. This story is middle-grade contemporary and follows a young girl who's going to play Romeo in a whole school's production of Romeo and Juliet alongside her crush. And the story, like I said, is middle grade contemporary, and the main character, I believe, is in 7th or 8th grade. But anyway, this story is so good. This story felt so like wholesome and heartwarming and so fluffy and cute. And similarly to P.S. I Miss You, this story is so underrated, and for what? Because it's absolutely so good. It's so fluffy and so cute, and I just really enjoyed it because it was so lovely, and I just like fell in love with it. You know what I mean? Like, it felt like a nice cookie of a book. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it felt so sweet and lovely and just so cute and lovely, and I just really enjoyed it. You know what I mean? Like, it just felt so wonderful and just so good of a book. It's just so good. I really enjoyed the plot, the character development, the Sapphic representation. This story is absolutely so good. So with that, I highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called Her Name in the Sky, written by Kelly Quindlen, who's the same author of Late to the Party, which was one of my favorite books of 2020. So when I was going into this book, I had somewhat high expectations, and honestly, this book reached all of those expectations. This book is absolutely so good. It's YA contemporary and follows a young girl who just wants to spend her last year of high school going to Mardi Gras parties and football games, and she definitely does not expect to fall in love with her best friend, who's a girl. This book was absolutely so good. Kelly Quindlen's writing is just so lyrical and beautiful and just so wonderful, and it really just like crafted a wonderful, beautiful story. The setting of the story was so good. The Sapphic romance in the story was so well done, and I just completely fell in love with the romance, the setting, the plot, the writing, like the character development. This story was so good. This book is so underrated, and for what? And I think it absolutely deserves just as much hype as Late to the Party. You know what I mean? This book is so good, and it really solidifies my excitement for She Drives Me Crazy, which is Kelly's next book. And I think it comes out next month, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, or maybe later on this month. But anyway, the point is, this book is so good. I absolutely loved it. It's so lovely and wonderful and just so good, and with that I highly recommend it because clearly I can't stop talking about it. The next book on this list is called Last Night at the Telegraph Club. This story is a YA historical fiction book that follows a young Chinese lesbian in 1954. This story was so good. First of all, I absolutely loved that the author discussed racism and homophobia. I just really enjoyed that, and I just really enjoyed the setting and the plot and the romance, and every single element of the story was absolutely so good. I need to be reading more queer historical fiction stories because this book was absolutely so good. I really enjoyed the setting. We love to see it. We love to see more queer people of color. You know what I mean? Because for the most part, I feel like Sapphic books are very white dominant, so it was very nice and refreshing to read about a queer Asian person. You know? So yeah, this book was so good. I just really enjoyed it. I would say that this book definitely lives up to its hype, and it's definitely one of my favorite Sapphic books from this year, which says a lot because honestly I've read quite a lot of Sapphic books this year, and it's only April. So yeah, anyway, essentially this book was absolutely so good. It's definitely worth all of its hype and so much more because I absolutely loved it. So with that, I highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called The Seafarer's Kiss. This story is a YA fantasy Sapphic retelling of The Little Mermaid, and it was absolutely so good. Like, even though I kind of knew what was going to happen in this story, since I'm very familiar with the original fairy tale, that did not take away from my enjoyment of this book because it was absolutely so good. I really enjoy retellings, and this story was no exception. I really enjoyed the plot, the setting, the storyline, the Sapphic representation, the romance. Every single element of this book was absolutely so good, and this book is so underrated. And for what? I had really low expectations for this book because I had read Ruin Song late last year. I think I rated that book 3.5 stars or something like that, but I rated this book 4 stars because it was absolutely so good. You know what I mean? Like, I think that this book deserves just as much hype as Ruin Song and possibly more. This book is absolutely so good, and I just really enjoyed it. So with that, I would highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called Music from Another World. This story is a YA historical fiction book that follows 2 girls who both get involved in the gay rights movement in the 1970s. This book is absolutely so good. I absolutely really enjoyed it. Similar to Last Night at the Telegraph Club, this book definitely lived up to its hype because it's absolutely so good, and also it just really solidifies that I should be reading more queer historical fiction books. This book is absolutely so good. It talks about a hidden piece of history that I had no idea about at all. So this book felt so refreshing and insightful and educational, and it was so good. The Sapphic love story in this book was so wonderful and lovely and just so fluffy and also like hard hitting. You know what I mean? Like, this book is so good. I love the historical fiction setting. I love the plot. I love the format. I love the story. I love the romance. I love the 2 girls' characterization. You know what I mean? Like, both of the voices felt so distinct and 3-dimensional, and this book is so good. Like I said, it's absolutely worth its hype and so much more as well. You know what I mean? So with that, I highly recommend it. The next book on this list was one of my favorite books of 2020, and it is I'll Be the One, written by Lyla Lee. This story is a YA contemporary story that follows a young bisexual girl who wants to be the first plus-size K-pop star. This book was absolutely so good, and this book is the reason why I really emphasized in the beginning of this video that queer people in straight passing relationships are still queer, because the main character of this book is bisexual and her romantic relationship is male-female, but that does not erase her sappicness since she is bisexual. But anyway, this story was so good. The romance was so cute and fluffy and lovely and wonderful. Both she and her love interest are both bisexual, so we love to see it. We love to see that representation. This book was so good. I just really enjoyed it. I just fell in love with every single element of this story because it felt so good. You know what I mean? Like, the bisexual representation was awesome. The romance was so cute. The storyline and the plot and the characterization felt so wonderful. The discussion of like body positivity felt so wonderful and just so well done, and the plus size representation just felt so wonderful. This story definitely deserves all of its hype and so much more because it's absolutely so good, and I absolutely loved it. So with that, I would highly recommend it. The last book on this list, but certainly not the least, is called Ivy Aberdeen's Letter to the Whirlwind by Ashely Blake. This story is middle-grade contemporary, and it follows a young Sapphic girl after her home is destroyed by a tornado. This story was absolutely so good. I really enjoyed every single element of this story. It felt so distinct and three-dimensional. You know what I mean? First of all, the plot was so intriguing every single step of the way. The Sapphic representation was so good. The romance was so cute and so fluffy. This book is absolutely so good, and I know I've said this a million times throughout this video, but this book absolutely deserves all of its hype and so much more because it's absolutely so good. This book is just so good. It felt so wholesome and fluffy and lovely and wonderful and just so good. This book is absolutely so good. Honestly, I don't know if I would say that I would prefer this book or The Mighty Court of Sunny St. James because they're both so good, and I am so excited for Hazel Blee in the Deep Blue Sea, which comes out the 25th of May, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, this book is absolutely so good, and I would highly recommend it if you're looking for a cute, nice, fluffy, middle-grade Sapphic contemporary. So, in conclusion, I highly recommend all the books on this list. Like I said in the beginning of this video is a part 4 to my favorite Sapphic books with Sapphic main characters. So I will be leaving in the description below parts 1, 2, and 3. And if you enjoy this video, please don't hesitate to give it a big thumbs up. Comment down below the green heart emoji. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to my channel if you're new, and I'll see you in my next video.